Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services here this afternoon, I would kindly ask if everyone would please turn off or silence all electronic devices. And we're going to begin this afternoon with a Masonic service from the Rising Sun Lodge, number 15, Society of Free and Associated Masons. Thank you.
Twersky was raised in Manhattan Heights Lodge number 191, now Rising Sun Lodge number 15, on June 4, 1996. He was called to the Grand Architect of the Universe on March 5, 2025. Congregation, please recite with me the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Brethren, the solemn notes that betoken the dissolution of this earthly tabernacle have again alarmed our outer door. And another spirit has been summoned to the land where our fathers have gone before us. We're again called upon to consider the uncertainty of human life, the immutable certainty of death, and the vanity of all human pursuits. It is passing strange, notwithstanding the daily mementos of mortality that cross our path, notwithstanding the funeral bell so often tolls in our ears, and the mournful processions go about our streets, that we do not more seriously consider our approaching fate. We go on from design to design, add hope to hope, and lay out plans for many years until we are alarmed by the approach of the messenger of death. What are all the externals of human dignity? The power of wealth, the dreams of ambition, the pride of intellect, or the charms of beauty when nature has paid her just debt. Imagine a scene with life stripped of its ornaments, and you must be persuaded of the utter emptiness of these delusions. At the grave, the scepter of the prince and the staff of the beggar are laid side by side. There, all fallacies are detected, all ranks are leveled, and all distinctions are done away. Our present meeting and ceremonies will have been vain and useless if they fail to excite our serious reflection and strengthen our resolutions of amendment. Be persuaded then, my brethren, by the uncertainty of human life, the immutable certainty of death, and the vanity of all human pursuits. Let us each improve this present moment, and while time and opportunity offer, prepare for that great change which we know must come to all. Let us resolve to maintain with greater assiduity the dignified character of our profession. May our faith be evinced by a correct moral walk and deportment. May our hope be bright as the glorious mysteries that will be revealed hereafter, and our charity boundless as the wants of our fellow creatures. And having faithfully discharged the great duties we owe to God, to our neighbor, and to ourselves, when at last it shall please the Grand Master of the universe to summon us into his eternal presence, may the entrust aboard of our whole lives bear such inspection that may be given unto each of us through his grace and mercy to eat of the hidden manna and to receive the white stone with the new name written, which will ensure perpetual and unspeakable happiness at his right hand. The lambskin apron is an emblem of innocence and the badge of the mason. More ancient than the golden fleece or Roman eagle, more honorable than the star and garter when worthily worn. Our brother wore this proudly. This evergreen is an emblem of our faith in the immortality of the soul, and by it, we are reminded that we have an immortal part within us which will survive this earthly dissolution, which will never, never, never die. And that, though like our brother, we shall soon be clothed in the habiliments of death. Yet, through our belief in the mercy of our Heavenly Father, we may confidently hope that our souls will bloom in eternal spring. Brethren, unite with me in giving the grand honors. We cherish his memory here. We commit his body to the dust and commend his spirit to God who gave it. We have assembled today to offer to our brother this last tribute of our affection. Unto the tomb we shall soon consign his body. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. There to remain until the trump shall sound on the resurrection morn. We can trustfully leave him in the hands of him who doeth all things well, who is glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders. The great Creator, having been pleased to remove our brother from the cares and troubles of this transitory existence, thus severing the link from the fraternal chain that binds us together, may he more strongly cement those of us who remain in the ties of union and friendship, that during the short space allotted us here, we may wisely and usefully employ our time, and in the reciprocal intercourse of kind and friendly acts, promote the welfare and happiness of one another. We sincerely, deeply, and most affectionately sympathize with those of his immediate relatives and friends who are most heart-stricken at the loss they have sustained, and remind them that he who tempers the wind to the shorn lamb looks down with infinite compassion upon the bereaved in the hour of their desolation, and will fold the arms of his love and protection around those who put their trust in him. Then let us improve this solemn morning, that at last, when the sheeted dead are stirring and the great white throne is set, we shall receive from the omniscient judge the thrilling invitation, come ye blessed, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Let us pray. Almighty ruler of the universe, author of all good and giver of all mercies, who has deigned to acknowledge us as thy children and graciously permitted us to call thee Father. Behold us, we pray thee, with the Father's compassion, as we now, in sorrow, lift our hearts unto thee. Thou art our only refuge in the hour of bereavement. There is none other from whom we may seek succor but from thee. Thou hast taught us in thy holy word that thou dost not willingly afflict or grieve the children of men. We beseech thee, therefore, to bless and to sanctify unto us this present dispensation of thy providence, and to endue our souls with patience and resignation to thy holy will. Inspire our hearts with true wisdom from on high, that we may glorify thee in all thy ways, however little we may understand thy purposes. May thy all-seeing eye be always upon us, and by the Spirit of truth and love may we be influenced to perfect submission. Lift up thy countenance upon us, O Lord, and give us peace. Let our fleeting hours and the toils of earth be in your name, so that we may thou in mercy may raise us to the enjoyment of faithless life and immortal life in that glorious kingdom where faith shall reign and hope shall end.
further ado.
As a parent has compassion for their children, Adonai has compassion for those who show reverence. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are dust. The days of mortals are like grass. We flourish as the flowers of the field. A wind passes over us, and we are no more. But God's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children endures age after age, unchanging. Friends, we're gathered here this afternoon, this memorial service for Harris Twersky, who has gone to his eternal home. The interment took place this morning, earlier today, in Valhalla, New York. And today, this afternoon in particular, is an opportunity to honor his memory through the sharing of stories, through praying together, and connecting to one another. We'll start that process, as we've done age after age, unchanging, by turning to the words of Psalms, as we turn to the words of Psalm 121.
Shir Lama'alot Esaina Elim Me'ayim Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim V'aretz Al Yiten Amot Raglecha Al Yanum Shomerecha Hine Lo Yanum V'lo Yishan Shomer Yisrael Adonai Shomerecha Adonai Tzilcha Yad Yeminecha Yomam HaShemesh Lo Yakecha V'yareach B'layla Adonai Yishmorcha Mikora Yishmor et Nafshecha Adonai Yishmor Tzeitcha Uvoecha Me'ata Ve'ad Olam.
Song for Ascents. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm and will guard your soul. God guards your going and coming now and forever. Amen. Friends, we are currently reading from the book of Exodus, the book of Shemot, the second book of the Torah in our annual Torah reading cycle. But we see that it's already in the first book of the Torah, in the book of Genesis, that when we lose a loved one, it's family members who step forward to offer those words of eulogy, words of memory, those stories shared. And that's exactly what we're going to do now, is we're going to be hearing from members of Harris's family. We're first going to turn to Harris's daughters, Sylvia and Siona.
Until yesterday, I had always had my dad in the world with me. I had never known a day without him. Even when we were in different states, even different countries, I knew that he was always just a phone call away. And I know how lucky that makes me, that for 51 years, I got to walk the world with two loving and supportive parents. Harris Twersky believed in me and supported me in ways that many parents might have offered a hard no to. Freshman year of high school, when I was finishing my big English paper at 10 p.m., the night before it was due, and our home printer wasn't working, he drove me to his office to print it out, offering only a small lecture on procrastination. When I wanted to spend a semester of my junior year in Israel, despite it being a critical academic year, he supported me. When I first started driving, he took a page out of his father's handbook, Henry, my pop-up, who had taken him through the Lincoln Tunnel on his first ever drive, and decided that my local equivalent was the Schuylkill. I'm pretty sure I almost killed us multiple times, merging onto Schuylkill Drive, but I have never been afraid to drive anywhere since. Even on vacation in California that summer, when he let me navigate the winding, narrow roads of Big Sur in a large rental car, while Mom white-knuckled it in the backseat. Or when I told him I wanted to backpack through Europe alone after undergrad, and I got a Eurail pass as a graduation present. I never doubted that my dad believed in me, that he knew I could succeed and thrive in whatever I put my mind to. And because of that love and belief, I was able to go on my adventures in the world. One of the most wonderful things about him was his willingness to share his passions with the people he loved. I remember waking up before dawn and trying to quietly slip out of the house without waking Mom or C so we could meet a chartered boat for ocean fishing. It was a magical feeling, having an adventure, just the two of us. I was the only kid, the only girl on the boat, and I caught the most fish that day. Dad helped me bait the hook, showed me how to cast my line, and encouraged me to grab a donut with hands covered in fish slime, which really grossed me out, honestly. And when we got back to shore, he talked me through cleaning the fish. That may be why I'm a pescatarian today, because I know I could catch and kill my own fish if I had to. We would spend hours in used bookstores, trading in the books we had already read and picking out our next sci-fi journeys. He took me to my first con, a Star Trek convention, where I got an Enterprise t-shirt that I wore until it was so threadbare I finally had to let it go just last year. We went to all, and I mean all, the computer conventions, from the days of the floppy disks all the way to CD-ROMs at what was probably the last computer convention at the Racetrack Circle. Because of him, I learned how to build my own computer from parts, knowledge that served me well when my computer crashed while I was in New Orleans getting my MPH, long before YouTube tutorials could walk you through everything. I remember going through the troubleshooting list in my head, making sure I even protected against electrostatic discharge, just like Dad had taught me. But above all, one of his greatest passions was medicine. My sister and I would go with him to his Kensington office, and after hours, we'd follow him on house calls to visit elderly patients who couldn't make it in. I trailed behind him through nursing homes and hospitals, watching as he worked his diagnostic magic. His patients loved him. He was the reincarnation of an old-time, small community doctor in a modern setting. We couldn't go to the grocery stores or the movies without running into a patient who would stop to tell us what a wonderful doctor he was. When I shared the news of his death, many of the responses were from friends who had been his patients, people who spoke of how much they loved and appreciated him. For him, medicine was more than a career, it was a calling, and I take comfort in knowing that he lives on, not only in his children and grandchildren, but in the countless lives he touched as a physician. I'm going to miss calling him up to say, hey, what do you think this weird insert medical issue is? I remember when I was in college and I had a mysterious rash. Student Health Services was baffled, told me to stay home from classes. I called my dad, described the symptoms without hesitation. He said, Sylvia, you have scarlet fever, just come home. And that's the thing about my dad. No matter where I was or what was going on, I always knew I could call him and he would be there to support me. His love was a constant, steady force in my life. Even when we clashed, and we certainly did, both of us stubborn and perhaps too much alike, I never doubted his love for me. I will miss him deeply, but I know I will carry his love with me always. And I would like to acknowledge here the beautiful picture of him that Maria Elena took. She got to capture his amazing smile, which he almost never showed on pictures. So thank you, Lena, for doing that. And I also want to say, whenever I'm in the position where I have to give condolences to someone, I feel super awkward and always feel like I'm saying the wrong thing. And now that I'm on the other side, I still feel super awkward. And, saying thank you just doesn't seem enough. And I really appreciate everyone's love and support. And that just shows what a wonderful person he is and what a wonderful community that we have. So thank you all very much. I really struggled with writing this. I didn't want it to sound too much like a eulogy. I wanted it to sound personal. And luckily I had support to recreate what I wanted to say. When Colin was young, he used to call my dad the great big book of everything. And it was a very much accurate description of my dad. He shared knowledge freely and often, and he was way better than Google, because he put it in context, and he made it so that you understood what he was explaining. He broke everything down and made sure that it made sense and connected things for people. He could share knowledge about pharmacy, medicine, history, religion, the origins of religious concepts, sci-fi, science, cooking, and home repairs. Although, let's all be honest, the home repair thing was questionable at best. He definitely had the knowledge base, but the execution was not always there. We have all participated in some of his projects where we took everything apart and then needed to call the professionals. But it was great. He knew he sometimes knew when it was time to call the professionals, and sometimes definitely needed a little prompting on that end. But this happened especially when it came to plumbing. I feel like some other projects we got through successfully, but plumbing was definitely take it all apart and call a professional. He had an incredible love for learning and loved discussing ideas and sharing a wide variety of interests. When we were young, he used to do amazing science projects with us, many times with dry ice. I don't know why, but he really liked dry ice. We often did it in the kitchen sink, but sometimes we did it in the backyard in, those foam ice cases. He made it rain in an aquarium and did various and sundry other science experiments and projects with us. He loved history and loved to explore and read about history and archaeological discoveries. He liked to discuss the findings and the implications. He shared with us during discussions and during trips to living history places across the United States on vacations. Car trips were full of sing-alongs, games, and occasionally he would snore in agreement with some point Mom or Sylvia and I were making when he wasn't driving, of course. And it was very loud at all times. His snoring was very loud. But in agreement, it was with emphaticness. Bonding occurred over Shabbat dinner, TV watching, and singing. Dinner time discussions ranged from gangrene to what our interests were to do for the weekend. We used to watch Star Trek, Mission Impossible as a family, which was basically a weekly tradition, and discuss possibilities of which parts were realistic science and which parts may be futuristic science. Often we were in the car, we sang together as I got older, and mostly it was musicals. It started when I was young with like the Pirates of the Penzance, which my pop-up loved, and eventually went into things like Phantom of the Opera and things like that. I often did the girl parts and he would do the boy parts, but sometimes we would just sing together. Dad loved to experiment with cooking. He enjoyed sharing that interest with all of us. He had Colin on a ladder next to him at 2.5 at the sink, learning to count mushrooms. His food experiments varied from pickling to winemaking. So it wasn't just cooking, it was any food experiments. Once in the middle of the night, Dad and I heard very loud pop, 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 pop. And we ran downstairs into the basement to find the source. To his great dismay, all of his wine bottles had exploded all over the place. Dad, like many of us, didn't like change a lot. There were many planning conversation patterns that, Dad and I engaged in together regularly. He would have a plan and I would make a suggestion that was a change in the plan. And then there would be some blustering and some protesting. And then, I would say, well, if that's what you really want, Dad, okay, but just think about it. And we would hang up the phone, and 10 to 15 minutes later, you can almost set your clock by it, I'd get a phone call. And he would say, oh, I like your plan, let's do that. Dad also really loved gadgets, and I spent a lot of time, and so we did too, trying to find birthday presents or holiday presents with him, having to do with gadgets, searching Sharper Image, or wherever else we could find the coolest new thing. And he would always go out right before his birthday or the holiday and buy it for himself, leaving us nothing to get him. It was pretty darn consistent. We explored a lot of things together, and Dad loved to share his enthusiasm about his variety of interests, including gaming. I am not much of a gamer, but he loved games. And when I was younger, he would sit with me at the computer, which of course back then was this big box thing, right? That sat on the desk. And I would have an atlas there next to the computer with him, and we would play Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And he got to share with me and explore with me his love of exploring the world, as well as like the gaming part. And you needed a lot of patience to do that with me back then. I didn't sit still for long, but he would sit there and go through, and we would find the evil Carmen and where she was hiding. Our time was always special, and he consistently made time for me throughout his life, and we continued to have explorations and fun activities. I'll miss being able to call him and chat, or like Sylvia, ask him the latest medical thing that we wanted to know, or what vitamins we should take with what. He was a wonderful father.
Now I'm going to invite up Harris's wife, Janine.
I thank everyone for coming here to remember my dear husband. He was a great man. He had a lot of the similar qualities that my dad had, who my mom was married to for close to 60 years. He listened to me no matter how silly it was, and he actively participated in the conversation, which meant so much to me. Any hobby that I had, Harris wanted to participate. If I was cross-stitching, we got Harris a kit so he could cross-stitch too. If I wanted to crochet, he wanted to crochet something too, so we were always doing things together. Watching TV, he always and it made me feel so wonderful. Always wanted me by his side. If I'd go off to another part of the house, I'd hear, "Hun, where are you, hun?" "I'm upstairs, Harris, I'll be down in a minute." "Okay." Every morning I woke up, my mom's British, and we grew up on tea. So every morning I woke up, he had a pot of tea, the cup with the sugar and the milk, all ready for me to start the day. And when you would come over too, Mommy, he'd make the tea for us too. He was always there for Mario and Maria Elena, and so excited for everything that they accomplished when Maria Elena got her job at Chanel. He was so excited for her because he knew how hard she worked to try to get that job. Mario as well. When Mario went to Rutgers, he was so proud because that was his alma mater too. He was the father that you guys always wanted. He listened to you guys, books, video games. You and him shared a lot of the great conversations. But I've been so blessed to have been with Harris for 14 years. And I see David and Cynthia. David, he loved you so much. He looked forward to his calls to you every week. His brother, Philip, we would go down and visit Philip in Florida with Mir and Dana's aunts. We'd go on these wonderful cruises together with your mom and dad, Dana. Your mom, after your father used to call, Harris used to call your father every week. It was every Wednesday. When your father passed away, then he started calling your mom every Wednesday because he was so concerned for her, wanting to make sure she was okay, and it was like she was his little sister. He has touched every member of my family, my brother, my sister-in-law, my sister, my nephews, my brother-in-law, Tom. He's always there for all of us, and he was just a welcome addition. My mom and my dad, when my dad was very sick, he was right there. You know, at times we bugged him too much, but he was there. He was there, and I'll never forget Harris. I'll miss him so much. He was my best friend, and I will really miss him so much. That's all I have to say. Just thank you, everyone, for coming and you know, showing Harris the respect. And thank you. And I almost forgot Jonathan and Wilma, too. We used to enjoy going to be with you guys. And again, in your visits here, you guys know how much fun we had. And it was so nice because was it last year when we went to Ithaca to be with you guys? And we walked around the farmer's market, and he was in his element because, like Sylvia and Siona said, he was a foodie. So how much stuff did we buy? Oh, my gosh. But that was Harris, right? So anyway, thank you, guys. And I love you all. Thank you. Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Mark.
let's see if I can pull this off. You just heard how good of a father Harris was, and he was an amazing stepfather as well. I wasn't as lucky to know Harris as long as a lot of people in this room, but as soon as I met him, how psyched was I? I get a stepfather who loves science fiction, movies, video games. I mean, you can't pray for something like that. And I speak for Elena as well. You could be a grumpy guy, but oh man, did it mean even more when he would smile at you and spend time with you and just talk with you. The amount of memories I have with Harris, all the trips we went on, everything, every moment I spent with Harris, I'm going to remember fondly. You know, I've been lucky enough to have basically 3 fathers in my life: my grandfather, my father, and Harris. And, you know, at the time, you don't realize how lucky you are until, you know, I've just got one left now. And I just want to thank you all for coming. And yeah, did you want to say anything, Lena?
Yeah. It's just so weird being at the house.
It's okay.
And not have like Harris there. I take it for granted how much he was just always around for everything. Even when I graduated from University of Minnesota, he flew all the way to meet there. He was at my middle school graduation, high school graduation, college graduation. He was like so supportive in everything I did. And then to hear from you guys that he talked about us all the time was really nice. But you just take it for granted because I'm so used to having him there since I'm 12 years old. And just to not see him there, and like, I just have to talk about all the animals too. He he always encouraged my mom to get another dog. We have 5 of them, like, and 4 cats.
We were remiss not to mention
Yeah,
Sophie.
Sebastian was his everything. Even at the end, Seppi wanted to like crawl on his skin, so he loved the dogs, and he just was happy to be home, be with mom. Like, he was just a very
Wonderful guy.
wonderful man. Yeah, so it's just, I'm gonna miss him so much. And yeah, like him and I, we used to, he's stubborn, so him and I used to go at it. But
He is
like,
also very stubborn.
I'm also stubborn too, so it's just like we had such a close relationship with each other. So it's just, I don't have anyone to argue with anymore.
I'll have to step in.
Just kidding.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
it. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Janine and Mario and Lena. I have to say, 5 dogs and 4 cats, that's a lot of pets. And now Colin.
Now me, and I'm already crying. Lovely. I am definitely not the most eloquent person in the world, but I'll do my best. Damn. If technology will not fail me, because I decided to be all Gen Z and do this on my phone. Yeah. If technology doesn't fail me and my phone will work, well, that would be lovely. Because I had decided to show on my phone, but it looks like I'm ad-libbing this. I didn't write a super long one because I knew I would break down halfway through if I tried. Because there's just so many good memories with him that it was so hard to pick just one to like talk about. Because how do you tell everyone about someone with just a few minutes when there's so much good to try and get through? But when I was trying to write this at 1 a.m., I guess the best one that could come to me was, funnily enough, a weird story about my first pet, Horatio, because that guinea pig was great. But when Horatio died, I remember, I think Papa was almost more upset than I was. But he came over, and because Mom just did not want to touch dead rodent. So he came over to help, like, get Horatio all prepared and stuff. And I remember I decided as a kid that I was going to pour all my pet just died angst into finding the perfect headstone. And I was being really indecisive, and Pop-Up came to help me with it. And it took so long because I was just waffling between all of these. They were rocks, but he helped me make sure that I picked the perfect one over what's essentially a glorified rat. But he would always do stuff like that. He was always, no matter what it was, supportive. And he would always make sure that you knew he was behind you in quiet ways. And no matter what, you could always count on him to support you and to be there and to have your back. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is that he just wanted everyone around him to live their best life and be happy, and he endeavored to make sure that he contributed to that, and that was always really cool. Anyway, I'm gonna start crying again if I keep talking, so yeah.
Thank you to Sylvia and Siona and Janine and Mario and Lena and Colin for those words and stories of memory. Today's Hebrew date is the 7th day of the month of Adar. In the Talmud we learn, Mishanichnas Adar marbin besimcha. When Adar begins, our joy increases. It's a sad irony then that we should have to come together here in this place at this time. Still, the Talmud's teaching provides some direction even for this moment. For clearly there is reason to be happy when we consider the life of Harris Altshul Twersky. To Harris's beloved family, to his wife Janine and his former wife Fran, to his children Sylvia and Siona, and his stepchildren Mario and Maria Elena, and to his grandchildren Colin and Gabby, and to other family members Dana, Vanessa, and Kathy, and others. To all of you, we offer our deepest condolences and wishes of comfort and love during this difficult time. Today is a difficult day for sure. However, today is a day filled with happy memories as well. Memories and stories that we just heard from Harris's family. And we know there are so many more. Marbin besimcha, even in this difficult time, your beautiful memories of Harris's life can bring joy. Harris was born at 11:59 p.m., he was very proud of that, on August 30th, 1945 in Union City, New Jersey. He grew up in a loving home with his parents, Henry and Barbara. He was particularly close to his mother, and with his younger brother, Philip, of blessed memory. The family lived on the second floor of a brownstone, and Harris's grandparents and aunt lived downstairs. He loved spending time with his grandfather, who was a physician and practiced medicine out of the same building. Harris would run up and down the stairs and would spend hours upon hours learning from his grandfather and drinking tea together while hiding from Philip. And Harris was a good big brother to Phil, getting him out of trouble several times, and one summer even working as a head lifeguard at a camp in order to pay for Phil to attend as a camper. Marbin besimcha. As a child, Harris brought love and joy to his family. Growing up Orthodox, Harris attended Yeshiva University High School and then went on to study pharmacology at Rutgers as an undergraduate. Harris then got his master's degree and worked in a hospital for a few years before ultimately deciding to pursue a medical degree at the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. Harris became passionate about medicine and serving his patients. He loved being a doctor, and the work brought him great meaning each and every day as a family physician with his primary office in Marlton and other offices at times in Kensington and Egg Harbor. Harris dedicated his career to medicine. He was a patient teacher, mentoring many medical students, and also, as we heard, an excellent diagnostician, helping countless numbers of patients throughout his life. Everywhere he went, patients would stop him to say hello and thank you. Marbin besimcha. He brought joy to his work and it gave him tremendous happiness and satisfaction in return. Harris met his former wife, Fran, on a blind date when he was 20 and she was 18. They got married 3 years later and remained married for 29 years. Sylvia and Siona told me yesterday that their mother, Fran, supported Harris going through medical school and made it possible for him to concentrate on earning his degree. Fran told me a story yesterday that she says exemplifies who Harris was. As she explained, when he was an extern and Siona was a newborn, he got assigned to a 6-week rotation in Grove City, Pennsylvania. They were given an apartment, but the heat was broken, and as Fran said, it was cold. So what did they do? Siona slept in the crib, and Fran and Sylvia slept in the bed, and Harris gave them all the blankets, while he slept on the floor, despite being the one needing to go to work in the morning. Fran fondly remembers the time the family spent together, going on vacations and exploring and singing with the kids. Harris, she says, was always very family-oriented, and Fran and Harris remained close friends after their divorce, continuing to attend family celebrations and holiday gatherings together. Harris and Janine's relationship started as a friendship, Janine working as a pharmaceutical rep with frequent visits to Harris's practice. But it developed into a relationship. As she told me, quote, "I saw that he was a very thoughtful, gentle, caring person who was also so very smart. And he reminded me of my father in the way he listened to me and respected me." Janine and Harris were married 14 years ago, becoming not only husband and wife, but also best friends. And Janine said, I feel so lucky that I got to have him as my husband, the luckiest person in the world. Together, Harris and Janine would watch TV all night long. They would go to New York and on food quests, and they loved to travel, including a very special trip to Israel. Marbin b'simcha, you brought each other so much joy. Blessings fulfilled. As we heard, Harris was certainly a supportive father and a loving father, and he also loved his stepchildren, Mario and Lena. He was tremendously proud of all of your accomplishments. And Harris was also a wonderful grandfather. He loved spending time with you, Colin, going on trips together, including the trip when you were younger to California where you got a splinter hugging a redwood tree, and then your pop-up chased you around the hotel all night trying to get that splinter out. And Gabby, your pop-up cherished the times you would sleep over at his house, playing cards, cooking you breakfast, and letting you watch all the inappropriate TV shows that you wanted. South Park, yes. Harris loved his family. He loved being a doctor. And if he had a third love, it was most certainly food. Hard salami, olives, pickles, knish, halva, chocolate, candy, ice cream, anything and everything deli, anything and everything that was carbs. He kept a drawer of chocolates and candies under his bed. And one time, as the family tells me in New Orleans, where he was for a medical convention, he made it a personal mission to find the best bread pudding in the entire city. So he went from restaurant to restaurant. By the end of the night, he had eaten 10 servings of bread pudding. And he was happy. Marbin b'simcha. You see, Harris never did anything in a small way. Nothing in moderation. He was an all-or-nothing sort of guy. He loved to read, and he would be reading 5 books at the same time, 5 newspapers at the same time. He loved history, archaeology, technology, and science. As we heard about his love of video games, and he also loved to learn and to explore. He loved to cook, especially nice breakfasts, including his favorite, cowboy eggs. And he was proud to be Jewish. He loved leading seders, was a fervent supporter of Israel, and appreciated that Judaism focuses on questioning, grappling, and learning. Harris was a good man, an ish tov, who was quick-witted, cerebral and intelligent, loyal, logical, kind, respectful, comically stubborn, and also a man of routine and habit. He grappled with health issues his entire life, but as an excellent physician, he did a good job, as the family said, getting himself to the age of 79. As the family told me yesterday, those 79 years were a gift. Yes, a gift of 79 years of love and happiness. But perhaps most of all, he was the gift. That's because Harris Twersky was a good neshama, a kind soul. We find that word neshama in a beautiful verse in the book of Proverbs, which teaches, Ner Adonai Nishmat Adam. The flame of God is the soul of man. Within each of us, God implants a divine spark. We all have an obligation to tend this spark and to fan it into a flame that will light up the lives of others. Harris understood this. The flame of his good neshama, his good soul, provided warmth and brightened the lives of all who knew him. Now Harris's flame will keep burning because it has been passed on to all of you. A flame of love, a flame of care, a flame of joy. Marbin b'simcha. Harris brought joy to so many people during his life. May you always remember all of the joy that you shared, and may your memory of Harris forever be a blessing to you and to your family. Amen. Please rise for a memorial prayer.
מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, חמצי מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מסעירים, את נשמת אורי צבי בן הנוח גרשון ובת ימינה שלח לעולמו בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו ענה בעל רחמים הסתירר בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן, אמן.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of Harris Twersky, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. And now we turn to the words of Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish. Please join with me. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach leolam omei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damirana b'yalama v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael V'imru. Amen. You may be seated. Friends, in just a moment, we're going to conclude this memorial service here in the chapel, and the family will be moving into the period of Shiva, the 7 days that follows this service and the burial that took place earlier today. Just information about Shiva: the family will be sitting Shiva. They'll be joining TBS, Temple Beth Shalom, for Shabbat, and then everyone is welcome and invited to Sylvia's home, as they will be welcoming guests and comforters Sunday through Wednesday evenings from 5:30 to 9 p.m. in the evenings. The address is 417 Cumley Avenue in Collingswood, and there will be a Shiva Minyan with Kaddish at 7:30 each of those nights, Sunday through Wednesday. Thank you all very much.